Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. It's about 7 a.m. Here on the East Coast, August 26th. Price of BTC currently at $10,363. Obviously, no one has missed nothing more than this kind of wick right here in the crypto space, and I think it was, more or less due because of the fact that there's so many shorts just stacked up over here. And now it seemed like there's really just one easy way to squeeze out most of them. I know I got stopped out. I know a lot of our community members got stopped out. And I know everyone basically in the crypto Twitter space got stopped out as well because they're posting about it. So now, we have to figure out exactly what's going on with the trend. Has it shifted? Has price action given us better signals or what? All right, so let's get to it. Okay, first things first, I wanted to talk about the crypto fear and greed index. Again, now we're back to the 41-point scale. Clearly people are not as fearful. So, again, this is not just based on sentiment. It's about volatility. It's about, you can see the different measurements right here, social media, surveys, etc. Right? So I'm glad this has ticked up a little bit because I'm glad this gives people a little bit of hope. Because personally, I am actually still short. All right, though I got stopped out yesterday with a loss. Even my stop, was 10,500. I still got stopped out. So, sometimes you just can't really help it, even if you have a deeper stop, because this kind of, for the lack of a better word, fuckery does happen in the, crypto space. And, even if you have a good stop that is set well above invalidation levels, you'll still get screwed. And so that's, I think, one thing, crypto has to sort of work on is, this kind of stuff right here. Okay. With that being said, I would probably say that, all of this right here really is not organic volume. Okay. And the reason why I say it's not organic volume is because this kind of massive candle typically happens, right? Especially when you're in a big downtrend, typically happens when you're about to have a short squeeze. Okay, and obviously we did see shorts get liquidated, right? Like crazy. You can actually go to Twitter and look up the whale bot. I think that's what it's called, and you can see that the shorts really just got squeezed out, and a lot of them have to jump back in to cover their positions, which again further boosts prices up, right? So it's really just a cycle of, that adds on to prices moving up even higher and higher beyond people's expectations. And then shorts typically just get squeezed out, and then price eventually retreats back down. Now, I'm not saying price has to retreat back down, but notice how price came back to a key level that's been sort of, struggling to get above, which is this marker right here. It's about $10,450. Okay. And I mentioned yesterday in our Bitcoin analysis channel, again, this is our Advantage community right here. You can join it by going to cryptosomniac.com and clicking on the products page right here. And you can buy the technical analysis course, and you will get 7 free days with that course. You'll get access to all these channels that you see that are locked. Okay. Typically on the free side, you will not see any of these channels. All right, you'll only see the ones that are not locked, which is community discussion, stock market chat, and a few others. Okay. Anyway, so to get back to it, so over here I mentioned that price did hit the top of this descending trend line as well, as you can see right there. Okay, and notice that we have not closed over it. But one good thing is I can say that we have sort of, not only did we break out this ascending broadening wedge a few days ago, but then we touched it as support, moved back to create another trend line, and then even broke out of that one. Okay, so price is trying to do its best to break out of each respective trend line, but still overall it's just kind of going down like this. Okay, so we'll have to see exactly what happens in this region right here over the coming 24 hours or so. Okay, but it was no surprise that price did come back into this level, and this is one of the reasons why I shorted. Okay, right over here, if you don't believe me, I shorted right there at 10,501. I didn't catch the exact top right here to short because it was a bit risky, but I did catch it right around 10.5, so just above this area right here. Okay. Now, with that being said, okay, here's something else that's interesting, right? Now, I should have, I should have been able to not predict, but rather, at least in terms of technicals, say that we're going to have at least a decent bounce. And the reason why I didn't believe in myself and my technicals is because this level, as you can see, these white lines right here, these are the support levels that Bitcoin has been tapping multiple times, right? And I figured that each time that these white levels right here get hit, this support right here, this trendline support, gets weaker. I mean, that's traditionally how it works, right? And if you keep hitting on support over and over again, eventually it's just going to break, right? And same thing with resistance. If you keep hitting on resistance over and over again, it's going to break. And so we're kind of stuck in a little bind right here where price is kind of moving up towards 10.4 or so right here multiple times. It's trying to break it. It did break it here, but this was a false breakout, and then it finally broke down really fast. Even over here, it touched resistance, broke down really fast. But notice over here, it's creating this sort of higher lows right here, right? So this was the low that was put in, a couple of weeks ago. So at 9,100, again, double bottom 9,100. This is 9,400, 9,700, 9,700 area or so, right? So all these higher lows are sort of telling us that in this particular area right here, supports have been hammered multiple times. Okay, so I figured that at some point this is going to break. There was no way for me to predict that it would be breaking right now, nor was there any way for anyone else to predict that this kind of volume surge would just come in randomly. But, again, if you put your stop in properly on your short, you got out, kind of with some scratches, but, no heavy bruising, if you will, okay? And, the thing is, with a wick like this, it's really hard to avoid, even if you set your stops just above the previous swing, which is probably the smartest thing to do, right? So even if you set them right here, like I did, right above this area, which was 10,500, you still get stopped out because this thing went up to 10,700. That's a lot of squeezing to do. So with that being said, now we're hitting that same resistance of 10,450. And now I would figure that if we do come back down again to this same area, as you can see where both these white lines are, I would say on the next go, more than likely we'll crack it. I highly doubt that you can do something like this, hitting these white trend lines over and over again, and go up again with this big spike up and not crack it. All right, I think it's been so many days since we've kept hammering around this trend line right here. Okay, I drew two little trend lines to be able to cover not only this wick right here and this stuff, but also these outside wicks right here, that one and that one. Okay, and so with that being said, you can see that every time we've tried to break under this critical trend line, which is the top one, right? This top trend line that you see right there, price has really just tried to push past it. Okay, it's doing its best to close above it, because I think that the bears know that once they gain control behind this trend line right here, I think the bulls are doomed. Okay, and I think there's just a lot of sort of battle happening in this particular area where all these wicks are. Okay, the bulls are refusing to sort of give up their ground in this area, which is the 10,000 flat marker. Okay, and everything that comes down in that level, the bulls buy it up with the demand. But that's only going to hold up for so long because I kind of stated this before, this is more so like a bouncy ball effect. I think it's a little bit more visible on a different chart, like this one right here. Okay, so here's sort of the bouncy ball effect, which is something like this, right? Price bounces up, comes back down, creates a lower high, goes a bit deeper, creates another lower high, gets a sharp movement back up, tests a trend line, and again, it's kind of trying to do something like this, and then eventually it just kind of moves sideways, flatlines, and then boom, falls. Okay, Now, you're probably wondering, where have we seen something like that? Okay, well, we've seen it back here, all right, in the 2018 bear market. Okay, I'm going to close out this volume and I'm going to make this a line chart. And I want to show you guys something interesting that I've sort of found out. Okay, so this is really what happened at the top of the 2018, or not top of the bear market, but rather the entirety of the bear market, which is that we basically created, sort of a descending triangle like this. It's something that's happening here, almost in a similar fashion, maybe a smaller fractal, right? Big run up, parabolic run up, and then kind of looks like it's consolidating, but it's really creating sort of a descending triangle, something like it's doing right here. And then price eventually just falls, from this top, this bottom, almost 50%. Because remember, back in November, price was around 6,500 or so, and then it just, sort of collapsed all the way to 3,000, right? Now, if we did similar numbers just like that from this area, and we dropped it, 50% or so, that brings us to about 4,800 to 5,000, okay? Now, I'm not saying that has to happen. I'm just saying that, if we were to assume that, this fractal is something similar to this one right here, right, where we're creating a descending triangle, long sort of, it's already been 62 days now of this sideways movement, okay, this consolidation. Now, again, back then, everyone thought that this was going to break up. I think myself and a few other people I know of did talk about this potentially breaking down. And we were right on that. Now, I'm not saying I'm very confident that this has to break down, but I am saying that by the looks of it right now, I don't know any way that it could go back up anytime soon, okay? Unless we catch some fresh demand, maybe just over here and then push back up. Because by the looks of it right now, there's just not enough momentum or volume or anything to garner up, retailers to be able to sort of FOMO into this. I mean, I guess you could make the argument that, the real volume does come from, professionals and smart money. But even there, I think there's just so many fears that are happening, all around the global markets, that I think everyone is just a little bit more reserved, especially in a speculative asset like Bitcoin. I mean, when there's sort of anxiety and fear and recession fears around the world, speculative assets are no different. Okay, especially Bitcoin. I don't want to hear the crap about Bitcoin is different and, people are not going to not invest in it or pull out like other assets. I'm pretty sure they are, because remember, cash is king above all. Okay, so if cash is king above all, Bitcoin and gold and silver and stocks and equities and everything will just get sold, okay, to obviously fall back into cash, all right? So, don't think that, Bitcoin will be any exception if we are still facing the same anxiety and fears. Now, if you're following the stock market like I am, and if you're part of the Cryptosomniac community, we have a stock market channel where we talk about, some of the fears that are happening in the equity markets, especially here in the United States. I think it's very visible that, it's starting to impact other assets, right? It's starting to impact, people's lives. It's starting to impact companies here. So, and it's starting to impact people's pockets, So when that happens, assets like Bitcoin or gold or everything really will get sold indiscriminately, okay? So don't think that, Bitcoin's any special, right? Now, another thing that I wanted to point out is this, right? If we take a look at the fibs from this bottom that we had, okay, all right, which was about $175 to that 20,000 high, we actually retraced from 20,000 to 3,100, about 85%, okay? Now, I want to show you something interesting, which is that, if we were to draw a fib from 3,100 to this 13,800 high, that 85% same drop that we have from 175 to 20K down to 3K, that 85% drop is right around $4,800. Okay, now that drop also coincides perfectly, if we go back in the candles, right? That drop perfectly coincides with the previous resistance right around this area, okay, that we had broken out of way back here in April. All right, so it's no surprise that we can retrace this entire move, this entire parabolic move that we've had all the way back down to $4,800 and then push back up. Okay, I'm not saying it has to happen, just something to keep in mind. Okay, markets are really just, remember that while everyone might be waiting here to hold up the price, the most beautiful and painful way to destroy everyone's hopes is drop this, like a hot knife through butter, through this. Once it drops through this, these people are going to panic. They're going to accelerate this drop even further, and then it'll start hitting this previous area, which is again around 4,800 or 5,000, which comes back to that 85% retrace. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Don't be surprised if markets just drop beyond expectations, just like markets went up beyond expectations. Okay. Let's see. I think in terms of this chart, that's it. Another thing that I want to point out is, say for the bull case, right? Let's just say that was the bearish scenario. All right, what I just stated earlier. Now the bullish scenario is this. Okay, we've let me pull up the 100 moving average over here. We've tapped the 100 moving average, as you can see, the purple line, multiple times, right? So positive sign. We've kind of bounced off it successfully. We've bounced off this trend line, and this purple box, these two purple boxes are something like this. So from this top right here, we bounced once, created a lower high, bounced again, created a double bottom, and then boom, push back up. Okay. Even over here, you can make the same argument that it's a similar fractal where prices, create a lower high, right? Over here, another lower high, bounce back. This is your double bottom right here, and then who knows, we could push back up towards this area right here, around 11.4, which is still part of this descending trend line. Okay, so it could be a similar fractal to what happened here. That is one of the positive arguments that I have. All right. And the reason why I want to have that positive argument is because I don't want to sound like a perma bear through this whole thing. Okay, so there are good signs that are obviously playing about, but I don't want to be ignorant of the fact that we've been sort of in this 62-day sort of consolidation with no clear and present higher highs. We are getting higher lows, which is great, but we're getting higher lows on lesser volume, and we keep hammering. You can see lesser volume, lesser demand right here, right? And we keep hammering on some critical trend lines, which I'm not liking, right? This black top trend line that you see, we keep hitting it over and over here. Even the 100 moving average, the bullish case that I stated for it, the bearish case is that typically you want to just sort of, tap the 100 moving average and just sharply bounce off it. You don't want to just kind of hover sideways around it. Okay, so the fact that it's doing that is just not making me feel comfortable. It's not that I'm, overly bearish. It's that I don't know how else to look at it if, we are to follow basic fundamental rules of technicals, which is that if you keep sitting on support or you keep hammering away at resistance, eventually one is going to break. And I see nothing, different here, right? Beyond that, I also mentioned the head and shoulders that I was seeing, and that the volume actually does line up with it. You can see right here, this is sort of that left shoulder, again on top of this trend line. Here's that head, okay, and here's that right shoulder. Now, I'm not one to sort of use head and shoulders very often, but when I do something that's a clear visible structure like this, it's really hard to ignore, okay? So, you can see right here that the head and shoulders is pretty present. That right shoulder is really just playing about right now. I mean, again, we're still going through our flatlining phase right here, trying to break this critical support, and the bulls are doing their best to not, give up this line of defense right here, because I think if they do give up, I think they know that, mid 8,000s is going to come easy, because this level right here, this order block right here has been hammered so many times. I don't know any other way where price could fall, no higher than 8,500 or so. right? So 8,500 would be probably the first stop, and then a much deeper stop would be $7,600. Okay, so that might be the range that you may want to target if you are looking for, potential buys, or you could just wait and see how price reacts when it does fall into that area. Okay, but like I said, I am short in the market right now. Unless I see a nice higher high being closed up here, I see, I don't know, maybe a closing above 11,000. I guess closing above 10,500 on the daily would make me feel a little bit comfortable. But notice right here on some lower highs, right? See this one right here where these candles close and open, that's about 10,365. Let's just say 10,400. Notice how this candle right here a few days ago, 3 days ago, closed right slightly above it, but then follow-up candle was a deep bearish candle. So really the sort of defense between the bulls and the bears is happening between this 10,025 marker that you see that was held up right here, and no candle has breached it so far, as you can see, right? No candle body has breached it. And then even over here, no candle body has sort of breached that 10,400 level to close above it. So the real battle is between 10.4 and 10,000, that $400 range. One of them is going to lose eventually. I don't really know who, but like I said, in my opinion, it might be the bulls who might lose and prices might break down. So we'll have to see. Okay. Over here, another thing that I noticed was this sort of ascending parallel channel that we've been seeing for the past, 7 or 8 months, right? Or technically 9 or 10 months, this big parallel channel. And then beyond that, only recently we've been sort of hammering away, down into this descending parallel channel. Also, more importantly, there's a level that's very critical, which is the 41-point level that's been hit multiple times. Okay, I think it's over here. Maybe it's not exactly 41 points. It differs from exchange to exchange, but maybe it's about 39 to 40 points depending on which exchange you're on. Okay, you could see this level tapped multiple times in middle of July, end of July, middle of August, and we're coming up close to it again. And this is the same sort of bouncy ball effect that I told you guys about earlier, which is sort of like this, comes back, lower high like that, and flat lines, and then boom, breaks down. So the 41-point level, or anywhere between 39 and 41 points on the RSI is kind of critically important. Okay, because even over here back in February, this was really that first big leap that we took for the RSI to just take off, and we didn't look back at this level all the way into mid-July. So one of the main reasons why you want to look at this level. Okay, let's see how the Ichimoku cloud looks. All right, I wanted to check out the cloud because I know in terms of support and resistance levels, the cloud has been very effective. Let's see, it's right there. Again, my settings for the cloud, folks, is 20, 60, 120, and 30. Why? Because the Bitcoin markets are more volatile and they don't close. Okay. Notice how on the cloud, especially in the 4-hour, you just breached the cloud, but you're still, yet to close a candle into the cloud. All right. Any green candle has not closed into the cloud. Okay. Let's see. I want to turn on the pivots as well, because the pivots are pretty useful too, right there. Okay, so here are the pivots. On the 4-hour chart, price did climb above the pivot, so good sign. But this pivot actually also just opened. So prior to that, the pivot was really 10,475 or so. If you just want to sort of add a caveat to that, I guess you could make the argument that technically we didn't close above the pivot. We did open a new pivot, and all we did was slightly close above it. Okay, and the EMAs that are very useful for Bitcoin are the 200 EMAs and the 50 EMAs on the 4-hour chart. So I'm going to pull those up real quick too. So that's the 50. I'm sorry, that's the 200. So let's turn that on and see how useful that is right now. All right, now that is quite useful. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to take away this Ichimoku cloud. Like I said, the cloud is nothing but an idea to give you support and resistance blocks, basically like a cloud. Okay, because remember, support and resistance levels are not exact, like one definite point. They're typically just a range, right? And so the cloud sort of helps you see that. Okay, so with that being said, notice how the price, hit that 200 EMA perfectly and got rejected. All right, so I'm gonna turn this off and then turn on the daily chart. Now let's see how the daily looks. Okay, on the cloud as well as the pivots. Again, we just came close to that pivot on the daily, and we have not closed above it. We did try to close above it over here in middle of August, but quickly got torpedoed down. So all in all, if we're really waiting for excuse me, if we're really waiting for the price to play according to the cloud, because it's already breached the cloud, then the next sort of rational and obvious step as per trading the cloud is you hit the bottom of the cloud. Okay, so anywhere between $8,900 and, as you can see, $9,100 over here is really the more optimal spots for the price to come back to. Okay, so this is one way to look at it, right? Price could definitely come back to these two levels right here, anywhere between 89 and 9,100. Okay, let's see. I did want to sort of take this away, and I want to show you guys something else. Okay, so this is something that I'd mocked up a little while back. Okay, and I want to show you guys this because let's see, I'm gonna draw it like this. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up something like this, something like this. Okay, so when we were in this uptrend from April, right, we kept hitting this sort of parabolic movement, and we actually used this same area as resistance. And I could, you could even make the argument that we came close to this area right here, but remember that we didn't, once we broke down from this area, you can make the argument that you could just create another trend line, but typically breaking a trend line like this, especially in this big sort of trend that's been intact, it's not really the best sign. And you can see once we broke down from it, kind of broke down pretty significantly, right? And then sort of bounce around in this, descending triangle that I've been talking about. And really what we're waiting for is either a big move, where volume surges in and pushes us up, or we catch fresh demand down here and then push back up. Okay. Again, there's no guarantee that price has to bounce here. It could, potentially go like this, use the same area as resistance, and then fall back even further. Okay, that's probably the worst case scenario where, price sort of breaks down, finds fresh demand, goes back to that same level, hits this, same level right here, and then falls back further. Okay, that would almost certainly guarantee us, this 5,000 area. I mean, that I'm pretty confident about. Okay, but till then, all we're really looking for is at least a higher high break out of this area, or just a breakdown where you can catch some fresh orders down here in that 7.6 to 8.5 level. All right, let's see. Another thing that I sort of noticed, yesterday is I was just looking back on the charts, and I saw that. Okay, yes, I guess I don't know where you are in the world, but this happened to me on 25th August, right? Basically my nighttime on UTC time. That was 1700. Okay, so that's UTC right there, as you can see, right? Something very similar like that actually happened back here. Okay, notice just basically around the same date, which this happened to me on 25th July or 25th August. This right here happened, again on 26th July, right around the same time, the daily and the weekly closing. Okay, we had a sharp movement up, and then boom, just big sort of capitulation candles right here, as you can see. Okay, and then a big rise up, right? So I guess, if you're again looking for fractals, you can make that argument right here too. Around the same time, daily and weekly closing, right? This one as well as this one, just a lot of wick sort of garbage that's happening, and then price sort of does not recover past it. all it does is it just moves sideways for a little bit and then boom, just capitulates down. So it could, you could make the argument that this sort of double topping that happened is, somewhat similar to what's happening over here. Okay, so keep that in mind, when you are looking for similar fractals. Okay, just something that I spotted right around the weekly and daily closing of this as well as this. All right, and sometimes these things don't really happen randomly. I mean, they are very well calculated. Remember, this is a market that's sort of run by professionals and bots and algorithms, so it's no surprise that things like this happen around the same time in a similar manner, around the same fib levels, inciting the same sort of fear and greed or panic, whatever, right? Remember that all these markets are really nothing but the composite price movement of what's really happening behind a person's mind, which is fear or greed, right? Each one of these candles represents a buyer, a seller, someone who had exuberant emotion to jump into a trade or jump out of one, right? So it only makes sense that we sort of look for similar fractals because we look at things like fear and greed indexes. We look for areas like these lower highs where people get to understand that hey, maybe they're getting overly bullish right here and this might be a better area to short, that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, folks, you have some price levels to look at. You have this area right here, especially on the smaller and larger time frames, 10,400 or so. Price has not closed above it on the daily, but price also has not closed below 10,024 on the daily. And so all in all, it's really just moving sideways in this area, and one of the bulls or the bears are eventually going to win. I don't know who, but someone will. All right, and then you can see this large head and shoulders pattern. I did want to show you guys that weekly chart, and remember that for the most part at the beginning of the week, one thing I've noticed, especially in the last 5 or 6 weeks, and actually even back here, is at the beginning of the week, yesterday, this weekly candle started yesterday at 8 p.m. So it's about 12 hours already, right? So we're only halfway into the first day of the weekly candle. Typically the first 2 days you see some big movement up or down, all right, and then typically whatever movement that the price has moved in, eventually the movement goes the other way, because I think the sort of FOMO that the first sort of day or two the candles incite, the FOMO that it does incite, sort of really just brings people in. It lures people into a certain position that they may not want to be in, but they're greedy, right? And so, the best way to trap them is, just another day or two of movement up, and then boom, just a deeper capitulation candle like this, right? And so, could be very possible right here. Now, another positive way to look at this is sort of this big, sideways movement, symmetrical triangle, bull flag, as you can see right here from this bottom to this top. So again, I'm not, trying to be a perma bear. I'm saying that I want to look at all the different viewpoints, and I want to make my best decision based on smaller and larger time frames. And for now, it's really hard for me to say where the price is going to come from, the volume is going to come from to take this higher. And if it happens, it happens, right? Then that means that, I get to buy into Bitcoin somewhere around, 10.9, 11,000, and then I can ride the train up to 13 or 14 or 16, right? So I'm not trying to be a perma bear. I'm just saying that so far it's really hard for me to see that, after this high right here, 13.9, all we've done is create lower highs, and we've kept hammering on this weekly support of about what is that level, $9,600 right here, okay, as you can see. But obviously the bulls do not want to let that go, and the bears don't want to let go 11,600. So whichever one wins, I'm gonna jump onto that bandwagon. I have sort of no loyalty to bulls or the bears. I'm just here to, trade and make money in the market, right? All right, folks, I hope this analysis helps you. I'm sorry it was a bit longer than expected, but very useful, I would say. We have some price points to look at. Like I said, the 4-hour chart is still under this larger descending trend line, as you can see on the outside, right? Touch 1 at the top right there, touch 2, touch 3, and then over here touch 4, complete rejection. Prices have not broken above this 10,450 area right here on the 4-hour. Prices have especially not broken above this 10,365 or 10,400 marker on the daily. So it's really hard for me to say that we have to go up, right? We don't really have to do anything, but for now, price hasn't even shown us anything, So far, I would say that the trend of us sort of creating these lower highs like this, may potentially resume again, and we might go down a little bit more. All right. And so one of the reasons why I am shorting right here. Okay. If you don't believe that we're going to go down further, then buy some Bitcoin, long Bitcoin. All right. Whatever suits your style, whatever suits your, technicals. Okay. But in our community, we have clear game plans that are set out. Again, all of this is non-financial advice. I just put out trades. Sometimes we get stopped on bad positions. Sometimes we make, some easy gains like this, or, even over here, we had a nice, very easy short right there. So we make some, money here and there, but we try to lose very little. Okay. This is a smaller position, so I'm kind of glad that I did get stopped out, so I can sort of open a a bigger one right around 10,500 with a better opening, right? Okay, I think that wraps it up. I talked about the daily, head and shoulders, markers to watch. 4-hour I talked about. I don't want to get into alts today. I'll do that maybe tomorrow or the day after. But again, Cryptosomniac folks, I don't do these videos every single day. I wanted to make today's public just to be able to inform you guys, the loyal people who do watch our videos. Do give us a thumbs up. At least come join the Discord free lounge, right? And I do put out analysis or trades here sometimes in the free chat side right here. This is our advantage chat side. Obviously, you can see it's a little bit more active than our free side, and tons of people from all over the country or all over the world rather in this one. Okay, in the advantage membership. Thank you so much, folks, for watching. Again, take care, cheers, and don't FOMO into Bitcoin. All right, learn technicals, take my course, and come trade with us. All right, cheers.